All right, guys, it was a quiet week on the university, so we decided to take a step back in time to what we used to do a month ago and do some on-the-street interviews. And we decided that it was an important enough topic to ask people what they thought Canada's national identity was. And we had some of the typical answers. So, of course, people said that our national identity has got to be our diversity.
Freedom to be diverse, right?
Or our politeness.
Being kind to others, being hospitable.
Your friendliest neighbor in the street.
But probably the most important one that we got was our freedom.
The freedoms of our charters of rights.
Maintaining a country that's free.
And yes, freedom is a particularly good identity to have. And our freedoms differ a little bit than what they have in the United States, and I will get to that. But what I want to touch on right now, and what will probably step on a few people's toes, is diversity. People often say that we are a multicultural society and our diversity is our strength. And I fundamentally disagree with that, and I'm sure that I'm going to get some heat in the comments for saying this, but I don't think diversity is our strength. I think unity is our strength. So diversity itself is not an identity. I would say it's more of the opposite of a unifying force, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to have many different people from different backgrounds in a country, but there's got to be one standard and one culture that you all align with, or things begin to break down. And obviously, don't take me wrong, this is not saying something bad about the cultures, but this is saying that we need a single culture, one culture that we all align with. And I don't think that our main focus should be diversity. And I'm not saying we should throw politeness out either. I think politeness is a good characteristic that we should have in our country, but we need something more. We need a unified culture, right? So when you think of a country, there are a few things that stand out about that country. So it has borders, it has a particular language or a few languages, and it has a culture. So those are the things that kind of hold the country together. Another thing that people would often say about our country and our identity is our freedom. And yes, I think this is a very good characteristic that we should have. But our freedoms differ a lot from what they have in the United States. So people actually brought this up, that, oh, we are free, but we don't harp on our freedom. We don't toss it around. We don't gloat about it.
Yeah, so as for freedoms, you said about how we don't harp on about it as much. That's because we don't need to.
Yeah, we don't.
And yes, our freedoms are quite different from what they would say that they have in the United States. And that's actually pretty core to like our constitutions and our legislation. So in the United States, when you read the Constitution, and especially the Declaration of Independence, what you'll see is that the framers of those documents thought, their fundamental thinking was that our rights don't come from man or from one government, they come from God. So the fundamental reason that a government should exist is to preserve those rights. And that's something that's very explicit that you read in the Declaration of Independence. So in the United States, their rights come from God, and it is the government's existence and purpose is to ensure those rights. All right. But in Canada, we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the basic premise of that is that our rights come from government. They are preserved by government. This is something that the government is allowing us in this country. So it's quite different. So in the United States, their rights should never be taken away, because then that would be a crime and a sin against God. In Canada, our freedoms are more of a privilege, not exactly a right. And we might think they are, but in our legislation, it's not really framed out that way. When you think of it that way, that it's much easier for someone to say we can take away those rights because they are a privilege avowed to us by the government. And if the government thinks that we are not using our privilege correctly, then they might want to take away our freedoms. So we see that in some of these cases with the hate speech laws that they're trying to put through. And we saw that with COVID and with the Freedom Convoy as well. Our rights in Canada, they come from government, not from God. At least that's part of the legislation. So that's kind of where we differ. And yes, I would say we have a lot of freedoms and we should be so thankful for them. And one of the things that actually came up when I was talking to a lot of these people is that they saw an increase and a rise in patriotism due to the threats of Trump on our country. And one of the questions that I posed to people was, so you're saying that Donald Trump has made Canada more unified?
I think so, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why weren't we unified before?
It's a good question.
Why weren't we thinking about loving our country and standing up for our country? And one of the reasons I think that has caused that, the lack of patriotism, is because we don't have shared goals. We don't want to actively work to better our country or preserve our freedoms, right? So we don't have shared goals in this country. And that patriotism that rose when Trump threatened our country, that was a result of us finally having something unified to go around and bring us together and be okay. We're standing up to Trump. This is our sole purpose. This is who we are. This is our goal. We're standing up to Trump. This is basically what we're going to do. And in my opinion, that is not quite a good enough reason to love your country or to stand up for it. I think we should love our country because of how amazing our country is, not because of some threat externally. And the sad thing for me was that this rise in patriotism, it probably will fall away when the Trump threat goes away. So I think we need to begin to appreciate our country, and part of that actually comes from understanding our history. And when I talk to people and ask them what our national identity is, they had a really hard time answering, like a really hard time. I was surprised. People, eventually they came up with things like freedom and diversity and politeness, but it took them a bit. And some people actually couldn't answer me even after sitting there and thinking for a bit. What do you think Canada's national identity is?
Good question. I really don't. National, I don't know. What the national is, I don't know what it would be.
And when I told them the questions, even off camera, what I would like them to answer, they're like, oh, I cannot answer these questions, so I'm sorry I can't do the interview. And that was actually quite shocking to me. Like, people don't think about who we are as a country. And we should, right? And that's probably one of the reasons we saw that rise of patriotism to Trump, because, we're like, we are a country. Yes, we should rise up, but the sad thing is it's probably going to die away once the threats go away. And when I say threats, it's threats fairly loosely. They're really more like suggestions and Trump trolling, not exactly an actual threat like it's actually going to happen. All right, now I want to switch and talk about something that would actually unify us. So we talked about culture already, but there are other things that can bring a country together. And one of those, as we touched on, was a shared goal. And what are our shared goals in this country, right? Like when we have an endpoint that we're all trying to arrive at, we're gonna all work towards that, but we don't have an endpoint, right? In the United States, that endpoint seems to be being the greatest and the best and being perfect. We call it American exceptionalism. But in Canada, what goal do we have? And you guys can throw around ideas in the comments, but right now it just seems like we're trying to be polite and mediocre, and I don't think that's good enough for a goal as a country, but you guys can help me out with that in the comments. So as a country, we need to have shared goals. We also need to have shared values, and then of course, shared culture. And now, what are our values in this country? Because they used to be Judeo-Christian, but we've obviously thrown that out the window, and now we're trying to be as secular as possible. So what are our values, right? And those radically differ based on who you ask. So people will, of course, say, well, we should have the value of being inclusive and diverse. And of course, we should have the value of politeness. But those are just face values. We need to have deeper values like the respect for human life and actual value for the human person. Because if we don't hold those things supreme, then eventually really, really bad things could happen. So we need to have shared values, absolutely. And unfortunately, that doesn't come, values don't exactly stay the same with every culture that you ask, right? So we need to have values that are uniquely Canadian. And then we also need to have uniquely Canadian culture. And part of our culture is an acceptance and a knowledge of our history. So I actually asked a couple people this at the market, and one young man, he was probably just out of high school, And I asked him what he thought of Canadian history, and if when he had been learning it, if he thought it was fairly dry and just disinterested him. When you took that Canadian history, did you get any love for your country from it, or did it feel dry?
Honestly, it wasn't much love at all. It was just kind of showing the creators of this country were just coming here forcibly. It wasn't really like something to be proud of, I guess. They didn't frame it in that sense.
And that is one of the sad things in this country. We are not teaching our history, and we're not, through the study of our history, we're not giving people a love for our country. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We harp on all the bad things that have happened in this country, and we don't tell anyone the good things. There are so many more good things that happened in our past than the bad things, right? It seems really disingenuous to say that we have to talk all about the bad and the ugly things, but not also talk about the good things. Right at that point, it's basically propaganda. So we need to talk about the good things in our history, and that is one of the sad things about their school system. So with that young man, I was able to actually encourage him to go and actually read his history and learn it.
I should get onto it. More people should get onto it because there's no pride in it. And I think it's ironic the people that are trying to be prideful now because of Trump were the ones, hating on it beforehand. But it is something that I definitely question. The federal government's not doing the best about it. But
right? And they are trying to hide some of the good things about our history. So recently we went to John A. Macdonald's home, and it was actually really heartbreaking to walk around that house and only hear the bad things about John A. Macdonald. And we were fairly quick in what we did and going through that house, but I didn't see a single plaque celebrating what he did in bringing all the provinces together and unifying all the different factions in Ontario's government. No one talked about that. So they were harping all about his bad faults, but no one was talking about, his leadership skills and the fact that he was able to join the French and the English provinces together and actually bring them into one country. That was an incredible accomplishment. And I don't think anyone has unified the French and the English parts of our culture and our country like he did since then. I don't think anyone has done that. So they didn't visit the good things about his past and his career and accomplishments, but they were very happy to visit the bad things. So at that point, it becomes propaganda. All right, so I guess the key takeaway here is that we need to learn our history and we need to love our country. And you guys in the comments, write down what you think Canada's identity is. Help me out here. I would love to know this, what you think Canada's identity is, and not just characteristics like politeness or diversity, but actually who we are as a core. And I would love to say that we are free, and I hope it stays that way, and I hope we continue to have governments that actually keep us free. But just help me out in the comments what you think about Canada's nationality and our identity. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. And for fun, I'll just leave you guys off with a video from the market of the one person who truly understood Canada and understood who we are as a country, understood our history, and this man happens to be a veteran, so I hope you enjoy that video. All right, bye. What does it mean to be Canadian?
Well, for me, it's maintaining a country that's free to be able to do whatever you want, of course, within the law, and to follow your dream. We're generally accepting of everybody that wants to come here and be Canadian, but not change our way of life to suit them. Come here and be Canadian. To me, that's what it's about.
What do you think is our national identity? Do we have a strong national identity?
I think we do. I think it's tied to the land, to the Rocky Mountains, to the prairies, to the Maritimes and everything in between. Canada has always been a kind of country of explorers and entrepreneurs, and I think that's part of our big heritage and our national identity. And the things that we've done overseas, especially World War I, Vimy Ridge, and all these other things, right? Cap Young, in the Korean War, that type of thing. That helps with our can-do type of identity. that if you want something done, give it to the Canadians and they'll get it done.
Yeah. So you're showing history, right? And a lot of people, when I ask them these questions, that's not something they bring up, right? Like I feel like our national pride definitely is strongly attached to our history. Like in many countries it is, like especially in Quebec, like their culture, their history, they really hold on to that, and that is who they are. But a lot of Canadians don't even recognize what their history is. And when I ask them if they love our history or if they ever learned our history properly, they're like, oh, I don't really care too much.
Yeah, and that's because I don't think it's being taught enough in schools. You know, I mean, they're worried about, I guess, it's been a long time since I've been in school, you know, or university, but, you know, grade school and that type of thing. But if you don't teach it to the kids and make it important, then they're not going to bother. Right? So that's what we need to do, is get back to teaching people what it's like to be Canadian and what our history is and the geography of this wonderful country.
And he is a veteran. He is a veteran, and so his heart is here in this country too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for your service. Yeah, so just even being abroad and like serving our country, you feel like our national identity is more who we are and our history rather than our diversity and other things.
Absolutely. Like both sets of my grandparents came here from other places, but when they got here, they became Canadian, right? And so my parents felt the same thing, right? What happened in the old country, wherever they were from, can stay there, and you build a new life here as a Canadian.
All right, guys, if you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and comment. It really helps the channel out. All right, thanks.